biologists. This session where we're going to take a look at ventilation within mammals. So we need to make sure that when we're talking about ventilation, which is breathing in mammals, we need to make sure we're talking about the rib cage, intercostal muscles, internal and external, and the diaphragm. So at GCSE, you might have just taught about the intercostal muscles on their own, but now we need to know about internal and external. So let's just look at a picture of what that looks like. So here you can see the external intercostal muscles support the outside. So if you were to put your hands just underneath your chest, just on your chest, you should be able to feel, if you like, your external intercostal muscles in between your ribs. And the internal intercostal muscles run along the inside of your rib cage. So with that in mind, let's have a look at inspiration first of all. Now, whether you're talking about inspiration or expiration, you must talk about these 5 things. So D, R, V, P, and PG. So D stands for the diaphragm. We've got to talk about the diaphragm. R, we've got to talk about the ribs. So by talking about the ribs, you'll mention here the intercostal muscles. V, you've got to talk about the volume in the thorax. The thorax is the bit from the diaphragm upwards. We've got to talk about pressure inside the thorax and also the pressure gradient. So this is what it looks like in inspiration. So first of all, the diaphragm, which is the muscle just underneath the lungs, this is going to contract and flatten. The ribs, they move up and outwards. The external intercostal muscles here are going to contract and the internal are going to relax. I often encourage students to pop their hands on the rib cage and take a deep breath in when they do this to help them understand and remember what's going on within their bodies when they're breathing in. So due to these 2 movements of the diaphragm and the rib cage, it means that the volume inside the thorax is going to increase. Due to the volume of the thorax increasing, it means the pressure inside is going to decrease, and therefore air is going to move into the thorax, into the lungs, along the pressure gradient. So it's a similar thing for expiration, except for probably the opposite. So the diaphragm here is going to relax and it's going to rise upwards. The rib cage is going to move down and inwards. So the external intercostal muscles are going to relax and the internal are going to contract to bring that rib cage back down. We've got the volume inside the thorax is now decreasing. The pressure inside the thorax is now increasing, because what's happening here is you've got a decreased volume, but you've still got the same air particles inside, if you like, so the pressure inside has increased. So therefore, because of that pressure increasing inside the thorax, the air is going to move out of the lungs along the pressure gradient. So if you are talking about all 5 of those things when talking about inspiration or expiration, you're going to get full marks. So that's everything you need to know about ventilation in mammals. There are sometimes the examiner does link it into unfamiliar contexts, such as like a balloon jar or a different animal, but you just got to make sure you've got those same principles in there to make sure you get all of those marks. So good luck with your exams and all the best.